he said to me, very, very in tune, spiritually in tune person. He said, Julie, if you knew your life would be beautiful, amazing, either way, what choice would you make? And just having that.
A great question.
Welcome to the I Don't Believe in Astrology podcast. The podcast is dedicated to conscious souls looking to change the world. Astrologer by day, climate activist by night. Here is your host, Debra Silverman.
Welcome to the Debra Silverman podcast called I Don't Believe in Astrology, which is not true for Julie. But we have such a range of people that I interview, from scientists to Julie, who I'm going to let you, Julie, begin. I always let my interviewee describe what they do. So give us a little flavor. I have your chart here, so I'm going to be listening with your chart in my hand.
Yeah. Well, I call myself an interior designer for the soul. Interior designer for the soul. I'll just give the quickest update. I did an about face about 15 years ago. I ended up going back to get my master's degree in health and wellness coaching from a integrative perspective and working full time. I had left my marriage consciously, 2 young kids. And I just had this awakening where I realized I really want to be doing work that I'm in love with, where it's helping people to identify their, what I call your youest you, your most authentic self, your soul self. And following, I'm sure, my chart without knowing it, I took everything, flipped it on its head, and started a journey of just, I have a coaching academy. I certify spiritual life coaches. I have a spiritual community that I lead in that, and have a podcast and written a book, and I'm working on my next one. But everything for me, Debra, is how do I connect to the truth of the divine, and how do I help others to do that within ourselves and to access, for me, that potentiality, that greater truth, that loving force is just, I'm obsessed with it. And I love astrology. I'm not at your level, but I dabble in it, and I just love anything that points to truths that have to do with energetic realms, with the moon, with the sun, with the cosmos. I'm in, bring it.
Yes. Okay. So in that honor, if it's okay with you, I'm going to share your chart, because
Sure.
not everyone is all willing to be so open about, because they don't believe in it. But you have, obviously. The first clue is I don't know if you know about this, but you were born right before noon. So the sun was the very top of the sky. And if you think about it, whatever happens at noon, the brightest part of the day, where the sun is controlling the vitality of our existence, like, okay, up and running by noon. And it's the very peak of the sun being at the top of the chart, describing a very highly professional, ambitious character, because this is the sign of someone that reaches a high level of success. So there's that. There it is. The sun is in Sag. Then the moon is in Aries, exactly trining. I don't know if you knew that, but there's a perfect degree. So the moon's at 2 degrees, the sun's at 2 degrees. That only happens for about an hour.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's very unusual that the sun and moon are in perfect tandem, meaning that you have a little bit of energy. You've got a little bit of energy. And then the rising sign being Aquarius, the futurist, the person who can see the way we're going, and you're helping facilitate the heartfelt, soulful part as compared to AI, because this is also a computerized, like someone interested in the future. Is that true?
Oh my gosh. I can't even help myself with the, I mean, I'm laughing because I'm like, oh my God, visionary future. My husband, I always joke, I'm like, I have to remind myself to be in the present. I constantly am. I think about it. I see it. I feel into it. 100%.
So then we have these 3 planets all standing together, the sun, Venus, and Neptune in Sagittarius on the midheaven, suggesting a philosophical, this is back to the future. That's funny. This is back to I didn't mean to say that. But the Sagittarius being the futurist who can see the big picture, who's always getting interested in how we can get out of the minutia and not be caught by limited thoughts. So I'm imagining one of your superpowers with your clients is being able to really give them permission to get out of the bound feeling of being burdened by limitations. You're not interested in limitations.
No, when I'm just laughing and I love it. I'm totally an open book. Whenever I feel any kind of limitation, my instinct is like, push it away. No, 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 no.
Don't
Yeah.
tell me what to do.
Yeah,
Right. So
that's
tell,
right.
so tell us just a little bit, like, what, if you had to put words to what makes you stand out and in your Instagram or in your community or in
Mm.
coaching, what is the quality about Julie that makes you stand apart?
It's a really good question. Goodness. I love that one, Deborah. I'm like, huh. Well, I think a couple things. For me, this idea of coaching when I started, God, 15 years ago, it was not what it is. It wasn't, people didn't know what it was. To me, honestly, when I say coach, I see it as being, I would say, between a healer and a doula. I'm really helping people to birth their their highest potential, their authentic, you know what I say, your you is you. And I can feel that for people. I'm extremely intuitive on, to be honest. Ooh, I have chills. I can feel, I can see, I can hear, I get all of that. And so I haven't really said this out loud, which is funny to me because I think I've kind of felt like, oh gosh, like I don't know if this is going to sound like ridiculous, but I can feel and see and sense somebody's higher self. I've been able to do this since I was little.
Let's
And
just stop right there, because you are worthy of saying it out loud. And part of this
yeah,
podcast and part of my gift, like yours, is to facilitate the articulation. You're double fire, I'm double air. So I come into a podcast, and my invitation in all of my school, everything I do is to say, can we put words to validate without being self-conscious what our superpowers are? And you have a lot of them.
woo, I am like, what is happening? I'm sweating in the best way. So it's all good. I'm just going to be
That's
sweating.
how I know. No, that's how I always know when spirit's around, when I start to sweat. That's my
Woo.
first. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's,
let's just give permission that the
yeah,
energy's higher. This is what these podcasts are about. It happens often that
yeah.
I am a gift of, I am a secret sauce. I'm like MSG. I just put myself on top of someone's chart and they go, whoa. So
Yeah.
your gift is, because Neptune's conjunct Venus and Sag in the 10th house, you have a philosophical X-ray machine where you go philosophically into them, and then you see where their pieces are that aren't working, and then you adjust it, and they go, why? It's like leaving the chiropractor's office. Like, why does
Yes.
it feel so different?
I have said that exactly, but it's like an energetic chiropractor. And one of the gifts I've had since I was very little is I can feel and see and sense the highest potential for the person I'm working with or with. It is natural. It's not something I have to work at. And so when I'm in their energy field, when I'm with them, and it's even in a group, it's funny. I gave myself permission to do this a couple years ago in this community I had. And I thought, I'm going to do some intuitive messages. And it was like, I thought, as someone who grew up in an intellectual environment, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing, but I know this. And it was met by, how did you even know this? Like, I feel you. This is spot on. And the gift is, I think I
It's
feel like,
Aquarius Sag. You know astrology. Aquarius Sag is combustion. It's fire and air.
mm,
So your soul is in the future. That's the Aquarius. And then that Sagittarius is going, woohoo. I mean, you encourage it. You don't limit yourself. So
yeah,
you're way past us. It's like you're running 3 steps ahead of us.
yeah.
Then you turn around and go this way, this way.
Yes, that is exactly. So the image I've gotten, so funny. We are definitely in sync. The image I've gotten many times is there's a bridge and I'm like running back over the bridge and I'm taking hands of like amazing people, brothers, sisters. I really feel like we're all related. I'm like, come this way. I promise you, whatever you think is limited and you're seeing a certain way that feels stuck, that feels icky, that it's not that. I'm going to show you, come with me, just come, take my hand. That is the image I have at all times, is running over this bridge. And then I go back and then I go back and then I get more hands and then I come over. It's like the energy is endless.
They run into the future, they get the information, and they run back and catch us, and you just nailed it. So
Yeah.
give us a storyline where you had to wake up. Like, what was the turning point that took you away from that other marriage, and what was the symptoms that showed up?
Oh, you're gonna love this one. And I want to say, I say this very lovingly because I was in a marriage to a really good person. I knew at a very deep level, but not consciously, energetically. I don't think it was the right match long term. We had 2 really young kids, and I will tell you, because I talk about this, but not a lot. I actually woke up in the middle of the night. It was an actual awakening. It was 3:33 in the morning, not surprisingly, and it was a full moon. The way that my bedroom was at the time, there was a big window over the bedroom bed, and there I could see the full moon, and I woke up and I saw it. The only way I can explain this is I felt like this grandmother moon energy spoke to me, and what I heard was, "You are not okay here." And that was very sad and very painful and very hard to deal with. I'm also recovering people pleaser, that whole lovely side of things, that flip side of Sagittarius, not the, not the like I'm, brash. I'm the opposite. I'm very empathic. And so I sat with that. I was having a racing
What was the
heart.
sentence again? What was the sentence they
You're
said?
not okay here. You're not okay here. And I was having a racing heart. I actually thought I was having a heart attack. It was a panic attack. So it woke me up. My heart was pounding and I was scared. But in that fear, there was just this voice that was very, very calm. And it felt like it came from the moon. It's the only way to describe it. I felt the energy. The moon was like vibrating. And this is not, I had done nothing. This is over 16 years ago, nothing, 15 years ago, nothing in astrology, nothing like this. And I just sat there thinking, what is this about? I'm not okay here. And then I finally realized, oh my God, I can't be in this relationship, in this house, and this construct is not going to work for whatever's next. Now, I didn't have those words, but it was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had with my husband. I had pushed down a lot. I've always been very intuitive and I'd pushed it down, Debra. I grew up next to Harvard in that arena where it was like smarts and intellect. And like, I just didn't ever really give light or attention. I think I had some gut feelings, intuition, and occasionally I listened, but I just pushed that down and it finally
And
came
how did he
up.
respond? What was your husband's response?
Yeah, it was very hard, very painful. He was really upset, obviously sad. I mean, I just said something's not right here for me. I literally was like, I don't know. I just know something's not right. I don't feel like something is right in our marriage. It was not easy to say that. I did a lot more personal development, inner spiritual work before and after that. But the more that and actually it was a coach I worked with who asked me this one question that unlocked the whole thing. And I realized, shit, my inner guidance is saying it is time to leave. You
What
can
was the
do that.
question she asked you?
So this coach said to me, he said, Julie, because I was like, what do I do? I had 2 kids under the age of 2. This was like the worst timing. I mean, I'm thinking, universe, what are you doing? Like, what the hell is happening? And I'm not somebody, that's not my MO to like leave or quit or end something. So he said to me, very, very in tune, spiritually in tune person. He said, Julie, if you knew your life would be beautiful, amazing, either way, what choice would you make? And just having that.
A great question.
Yeah. The way, I have a very strong intuitive sense. And the second he said it, it wasn't even I was like, oh, I wouldn't be married. I mean, I would do this lovingly. I'd be kind. We could be friendly. Like but I wouldn't be married to this person. And he said, great, there's your answer. Go do that kindly, lovingly, compassionately, and then come back in 8 months and coach in this program with me. So this, that's a whole other story. That's how I got into coaching before I did my master's degree. I was blessed. I worked with some amazing people, but that question gave me this possibility, it actually gave me the direct connection to my soul's answer, and without feeling judgment or guilt, or it just gave me the truth for me. And I think that's the reason I got obsessed with this work, because it changed my life.
Yeah. Did your mom and your family just go, what are you doing over there, Julie?
My family, I would say the one thing, there's a lot of great things with my parents. They're very, very supportive and loving. They've always been, I grew up with follow your heart, do what you love. I grew up with that in a very
That's the sun trining the moon. The sun trine the moon indicates a parental situation, because what the sun is the father and the moon is the mother, that they were so in tandem that you felt supported to be who you are.
I did. They struggled financially in other ways, but in terms of love and support that way, that was really a gift. I was very blessed. And so my mom was sad. I mean, it was very sad, I think. And she still, she cares deeply for my former husband. She had felt like they were family. It was not easy. And I adore his family. I mean, comes from a wonderful family. He's a good person. There was thank God, no abuse. I mean, there were some things spiritually, religiously, where I realized this is not where I'm heading. And it's like, I had to listen. I couldn't not listen to my inner voice. I
That's
actually started,
amazing.
yeah.
You actually what? I interrupted.
Well, I started to get these intuitive, futuristic senses. If I don't do this, I'm not going to be well. It's like, really, I don't want to get into the details, but I could see, like, if I don't listen, this is not going to end well. I may not even be here anymore, not because of him, but because, when we are not
Because
in
you'll be
alignment.
not honest yourself. So I'm going to just show
Yeah.
you one more piece of your chart that I find
Yeah.
amazing. So you have this big triangle, which I'm sure you've seen before. It's called a Grand Trine. 2 planets in Scorpio. This is the psychic part. Mercury in Scorpio, how you think. Mars in Scorpio, the same degree, giving it very strong feelings. When you think about something and it's someone's dark or it's not true or it's through your dream time, it's loud. And it's so supported exact degree by your life lesson, which is to trust your gut. And then it's supported by your dreams, Jupiter and Pisces. So you have this wildly strong water element in your chart that describes somebody who feels beyond logic while living next door to Harvard. I love the image. So permission to do so. And so give us an example with your psychic ability is crazy, by the way. Like when someone's not telling the truth, your body goes off.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. I feel like I could cry. This is the most amazing thing. I'm going to tell you right now. I've done my chart never like this is your gift. Cause I can feel, I get a strong, like, what is happening? This is just so amazing. It's
I
amazing.
make it very simple. And I'd love to open up to your audience. We have another coaching school, which we'll talk about after, but I love women who use in their coaching the simple way that I present astrology. It's not complicated because astrology that's why people don't believe in it. It's so abstract and it's such a parlor trick and it's so many different voices and I make it really simple. So this intuitive over there, you get a gut feeling. That's your life lesson, Saturn and Cancer, that you trust your gut.
Yep.
Your mental body is like an X-ray machine and you pierce through it and then you listen. Now here's the place where most people who have a Grand Trine in water have a psychic capacity, but you walked over your comfort in a marriage, in a normal traditional household with 2 little babies and said, I can't not listen to that voice.
Yep. It's partially why I'm like sitting with this thinking, part of why you asked earlier, what's different. A lot of what I do in my coaching program is we focus on intuition. I've done a lot with the Heart Math Institute, Heart Math, Heart Intelligence. For me, the lifeline is my intuition. Legitimately, literally my lifeline.
You're 100% psychic. So what was the first book that you wrote?
So the first book that I wrote is called Get a PhD in You. And I had, I know, which is so funny. It's like the intellect and I had started this work on myself 20 years ago in a 12-step program for struggle with, for me, it was food and sugar. I also have those in family, food, sugar, alcohol. For me, it really showed up in eating and comforting. I think because I was so intuitive, psychic, and didn't know how to handle that food, and I've learned, just numbs. And I can feel, as I'm telling you, it makes me want to cry. So that's good. We're in the right space because it's very emotional. And learning how to, to trust myself, to trust this gift, to be balanced. It's been a journey. And so teaching that in my program, in the coaching I do, I just believe it's a superpower. We all have intuition. We all do in different ways.
So you teach people. That is such a great title. And what's the next book you're working on?
Yeah. So that, by the way, came to me when I had gone to a meeting. I came out of it and I was like, I finally feel like I effing got a PhD in myself 18 years later. And you know what? Like, I actually love who I am. It's maybe I could help someone to do that in 12 weeks. It's a 12 chapter, so I'm like, I kept hearing, you need to write this book, Julie, in a very quiet voice. the moon again. So that was the first book I wrote. A business edition was the second. And I'll tell you what, this is really interesting, Debra. I had a book I was working on. It was called Who Does She Think She Is? All about overcoming imposter syndrome. I might still write it. I interviewed women, but there's another book that just literally this idea came through last weekend. And the energy is so strong. And it's funny, I waited on this other book, and I'm not a big procrastinator, but I know when I'm pausing to follow that. And so what I really want to be teaching in addition to intuition is love, how to be loving, how to love yourself, how to love others. I believe it's the healing agent. And I don't mean like airy fairy love. I mean, like, how do we get into practices like getting through fear, forgiveness, and how do we infuse ourselves with love on all levels? And so this whole framework came through. I'm just like, what is happening? So that is probably the next book. It's called The Love Method, is what I am.
The story. Okay, I'm going to ask you a completely random question. Fill in this blank. This is a question I ask everybody I do the interview with.
Yeah.
I wish people would fill in the blank. What would be, if you had a wish for the humanity, what would be the wish that you would have?
I wish that they knew, who they really were, which is this incredible, beautiful love, God force. We're outpourings of the divine. I wish people really knew who we were.
An outpouring of the divine. I love that so much.
Yeah. And trusted that, and knew that fear, these are illusions, that judgments, these are not the essence of who we are, that we're infinite, that we are legit angelic creation, human
What if
versions.
people knew that? What if people actually knew? What if it came built into the system like blood, like the way that blood runs through our body with nutrients, that we had that thought that not only am I lovable, but that fear is an illusion that my love can just melt.
That is my biggest desire, is to help as many people know and remember that. That is literally what I feel like at the bottom of it is what I'm here to do.
Tell us, Miss Saturn and Cancer, about your two children. How old are they now?
Yeah. So my daughter is just about 17. She's 16 and my son is 15.
Wow. So that was a long time ago. And how did you meet your husband now?
So I met my husband where I used to work, and he was married. I was married. I just had this weird intuitive knowing about him. And I'll share with you, not only did I have a knowing about him, we had studied, I'd gone abroad with my former husband, and he had taken students from a business school. He worked entrepreneurs on these tours. And there was a tour guide who he was just friendly with. And I knew they were going to end up together, and they did. I knew it. And see, now it's funny when I say it out loud, I'm like, oh, I guess I am psychic. And this happens all the time, but I just brush it off as like, oh yeah, no, I know that. Like, I knew it didn't make any sense with my husband whatsoever. When we started dating, he got separated, divorced before I did. And it was like my soul knew him. And I knew this. And then when my former husband, he started dating this woman almost immediately. They got married within the year. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I knew that. A year before that, I knew it. I felt it.
You could just see it in the field. You could feel it.
100%. I have a friend who I tell this all to, and she's like, oh yeah, you knew this, you felt this, you felt that. I'm like, yep, I just have to trust it, is what is my challenge.
I wish we all had what you had. That's what we could call that in astrology, the Grand Trine in water with Neptune conjunct Venus in the 10th, is that your intuition machine is fully operative. So most of us have plugs that we're operating, or we have a disconnect, or we just didn't know how to turn the thing on. Yours came in fully functioning.
Right.
That's called a past life memory. That's called witch. I see witch all over you. That you were studying and teaching and learning the skills of how to sit in meditation and receive the impression and not argue. That's the gift of you. You listen and you say, really? I'm getting divorced?
Yeah.
Okay. 2 little people. And then here comes my other husband who I recognized. And then now your children are, because that's your life lesson, is being a mom. And so how is it for you as a psychic being a mom?
Well, and it's funny. I feel like I'm out of the closet. I've never claimed that title. It's very funny. Yet when you say it and I say it, I'm like, holy S, this is true. Like, what the, I mean, even at 48, I'm still like,
And why are we so reluctant to own it? Isn't that curious?
it is
Why
curious.
is it? Because of the witches
Yeah.
being burnt.
Yeah. I think there's some past experiences where, I think I've tuned into, I mean, I've had a feeling of, well, other dimensions, other times where I've been involved with some, master teachers, let's just put it that way, that are recognizable. Like I recognize the language, this love language, frankly, the way of love. I recognize this in other teachers, some who were not a part of either the culture I was raised in, the religion. But for me, I don't see religion. I don't see, it feels like teachings of love from the divine that I'm just
So did
stringing
Jesus come
along.
to you?
I mean, I've connected with that energy that to me, it's funny. I was, being raised in a Jewish household. I just, the way that it was explained, my mom explained him as he's an amazing teacher. That's all I had, which even frankly, saying it that way is not typical. And the more that I let go of like, religion labels, or the more I realize those teachings, I know these teachings, I'm here to teach these teachings. I heard that when I was little. I mean, I had a day when I was like 10, I told my parents, I mean, I remember this. I said, I'm supposed to be teaching about love. And they were like, okay, great. I didn't know, I knew the term rabbi because that's what I knew. But I said, I don't even know what this is, but I just had this day. I remember I saw it in everybody. I saw everybody lit up. And I said, I'm supposed to teach about love. That's what I'm supposed to teach. And
10-year-old Lord, that's so cute, Julie.
so, I'm just coming.
And who was the masters that came to teach you?
What'd you say? Say it again.
Who are the recognizable masters that have come to teach you?
I mean, I definitely feel this energy, the Jesus Christ consciousness energy. I feel that energy from, I believe, who was a teacher, Mary Magdalene, connected to him. Egyptian, Celtic, Bridget of Kildare. That is a whole other story. Isis, that whole energy.
So you have, I use this word, I love it so much. Do you know the word recapitulation?
Oh my God, no, but I know it. There's a song. I feel like there's a song with that word. I don't really know what it means.
It's the ability to remember, to bring forward what was left behind, and the memory comes in. So you've recapitulated, whether it's the Irish or whether it's the Christian or whether it's the mystics. So that came into your system without it being tarnished. So when you were little, you were like, I got this.
Yeah, I was like, I'm supposed to be teaching this. I took a major detour, which is fine. That's part of the lesson, right? It's just, it feels like now, it's funny. Here I am, 48. I'm like, wow, I feel like things are just getting started with what is coming in. Even
you're just getting started. So there's another question I love to ask people. If there's something in your life, a couple of things that you couldn't live without, what are the things in this life that you're like, I cannot live without those things?
I'm laughing so hard. I think because they're probably not what most people would say. I mean, obviously food and water, nourishment, spiritual sustenance. I right now I'm working through a course in miracles. Something that sustains me.
What was the funny part?
I first saw yoga and my infrared sauna. I thought, well, that's really that.
But that's real Sagittarius. You can't, your system needs to be fed with movement. Well, that's the answer. And of course, food and water. But the real answer was you can't live without physicality. You're a Sagittarius.
I did not know this. And I actually had a lower spine injury, very minor, about a year and a half ago. And I will say the gift of that, I was like, there's a gift. It doesn't feel like a gift. The gift was learning not to push myself in movement and to do it in a very loving, flowing, watery way. And that has been coming home. I find yoga right now has just been one of the most healing things I've done.
I am a yogi, so I'm right with you. Another question. When is the last time that you cried?
This morning on the mat. This morning, thinking about all I was grateful for. Today's lesson that I'm doing was to thank the divine for everything, for the way that we really the way that we really are, right? That we are made of harmony. Our cells are made of harmony. We're made of love. And I was like streaming tears on the mat, and I thought, well, oh well.
Grand Trine and water, you have a good excuse. And then tell us about your company. So how many employees do you have?
Yeah. So my business has, I mean, me as the main person. I have an amazing, I call her my unicorn, and she helps with everything, scheduling and programs. And so she's works with me. And then I have a small but mighty little tech team that does web design, and they're all women. I love the people that work with me. There's about 4 to 5 of us. And I just trust, like, that expands whenever I feel and hear and sense it's time to expand or not. And so, yeah, I love my team. They're amazing.
And how long have you been running this business?
Yeah, I've been running for almost 9 years. And it's funny, in addition, I'm a professor at Georgetown University, which is so interesting
And what are
because
you teaching?
I am teaching they have a whole health and wellness coaching graduate program, certificate program, and I'm one of their professors. Like, I literally have taught not just the fundamentals of coaching, but also I teach how to create a business, how to do the inner work. I love academia still. So that keeps my foot in the door there.
What was
My
your
own
master's degree in? What did you get a degree in?
I got it in health and wellness coaching at Maryland University of Integrative Health. It was like the biggest gift. All I can tell you, this program, we studied Dr. Bruce Lipton, Dr. Joe Dispenza, epigenetics, integrative health, meditation,
Just
Tara Brach.
Sagittarian dream.
Yes, I was like in heaven. I didn't want to leave. In fact, I was like, how do I go back? Maybe I should get my PhD for real.
PhD in me. So if
PhD.
there was one thing you could change about yourself, what would it be?
I would just love to really, I think I can get since I can see the future, there are times where I can get either impatient, like, why hasn't that happened yet? Because I can see it, I can feel it. And I think sometimes I can take myself a little seriously and get a little like, this is so important. So I would dial back. I would bring in more humor. I would lighten the F up a little more. And I would just really go, it's really that full-time faith and trust, really leaning, like, fully getting, it's all unfolding the way it should. I focus on that daily so that I can learn how to get into that kind of
And it gets
receptive
better. I'm just
state.
gonna let you know I'm 20 years older than you. It gets better and better as you get older. Like,
That's
there's more and
awesome.
more freedom. And you realize, why are we in a rush again?
Yeah.
Why don't we just thoroughly enjoy this exact moment? So then I'm curious what happened. Was it 2004? That was your Saturn return. What happened for you?
2004. Oh, that's interesting. That's 2003, 4 was when I changed. I was in another job, a nonprofit. I liked it. I didn't love it. And that's so interesting. I had a total wake up from that and left, gave them like 3 months notice, left without a job. I was married at the time. And I just said, I've got to do something else. And actually, I not only started my job that was 11 years, I went back and did a whole on-camera training. I used to do commercials and hosting and commercial modeling. And I got myself back into that whole arena of TV and film in 2004.
That's called Saturn return. So I'm looking forward to sharing with my audience your material, because coaching is so important. It's not just astrology. Astrology, the way we teach it, is very simple, as you can see. Grand Trine and water. We look for those obvious signatures that don't go away for your whole life. You're always going to be the emotional one, Grand Trine and water. You're always going to be the futurist, Aquarius rising, and you've got this energetic double fire. If you don't move, you get crazy pants.
Yeah, absolutely. Crazy pants. Like, it's not an option. I have to move every day. Absolutely. Yeah.
Same. So that's great. Tell me this is my last question, because you are a futurist and you can sense, and are you interested in the environmental climate conversation about what's occurring? What do you see, Miss Seer?
Yeah. Whew. What do I see it's funny. I was just watching on Netflix, Our Planet season 2, and I'm sitting there like bawling because these elephants are sleeping, laying down because they're so exhausted because their whole where they live has been modernized. What I feel, what I see, what I sense is we're at a precipice. I think this is why I feel an urgency that the more of us that have these awakenings, that remember kind of that we're all connected, that see animals as our brothers and sisters, literally of just a different, in a different suit. The more of us that become more sensitive and empathic, the more that we're naturally going to want to take care of Mother Earth. And so to me, what I can feel, and this might be the eternal optimist in me, I'm sort of wired that way, is we can change things. It's actually more than just, I'm going to give some money to the ocean for the people that are helping the ocean. It's actually I personally believe it's all the inner consciousness work. We have to change that on the inside. We have to start seeing the oneness. And the more of us that do that, and the more of us that really, step out into our potential, shift our oneness consciousness, and are able to feel, to know, hey, I'm actually related to those dolphins. Even, I'm connected to the little fish that I don't even necessarily see. I'm connected to the food that I'm eating. The more that we feel and sense that connection, I believe the more we're going to naturally make choices that would be of the healing nature, of the divine nature. So I feel like it's possible. I really do. I think that's the urgency, Debra, for me is I can see that this whole existence we live in could be shifted absolutely to a much more harmonious. And I like that word, harmony, unity, consciousness, place. It could be, it can be. It just means each of us needs to be responsible for our energy, for our consciousness, and for ourselves fully. Everything on the outside is a projection of the inside. That is a big thing to swallow. But if you start to really get that, anything that is not loving and kind, it's my work to do. That's the way I see it.
I love that. So you're an optimist. So your thing is on the inner, at the physical plane, which is what we've discovered with all the scientists. There's a very limited, starting with the coral, which was my first interview on my podcast, was the guy that wrote Chasing Coral. And he just flat out said that, there's so much coral gone now that the earth in its natural habitat, as far as that particular ecosystem, is broken. And that's the one we can't see. And that's the element that you are. So the inner work is going to change all that. At the physical level, I'm so curious how we're going to make the transition, because we are definitely destroying.
Yes.
What you described about the elephants. I mean, these are real truths.
Yes.
The extinction.
I would just add that in addition to the oceans, the animals, there's a similar thread going on around materialist, and I'm not like we are material, but around, judgment, attack, around the way that we are with other humans, the fighting, the lack of human kindness spirit. I mean, you can just see that through whether it's social media, through shootings. So it's, as above, so below. Like what we see in the ocean, what we're seeing with the planet, with the animals, I think we're seeing with humanity. And so that's, I don't know fully how it works, like from that divine perspective, how things shift in a manifestation way. But I just know that when you shift the inside, things do change on the outside. And I actually think some of it might be forgiveness work with our animals and with Mother Nature, like the Ho'oponopono, like literally, let me take responsibility. Like, let me just say, I'm sorry. I am sorry. I've been asleep at the wheel. And that's what I believe.
Hey, let's just finish with the prayer, because that's exactly where I live is.
Yeah.
Like, we can anyone listening to this, you've been inspired by a being who listened to her voices, changed her life, became a teacher, inspires lots of people, uses her spider sense, knows how to use her, coming out of the closet right here, lifetime on our podcast. And that single influence that you're seeing with Julie is an invitation for you. That if you listen and you really get integral about what does my life look like? Am I eating properly? Am I exercising? Am I respecting the food that I eat? Am I respecting the children I'm raising? Am I respecting the family that I had? Am I making peace with the stupid story? I call these stupid stories. In my first book, The Missing Element, I called stupid stories. Like, we all have them. However, the difference, what I see with you, Julie, is that your Sagittarius Aquarius is in the future with so much excitement, you're like, follow me over here. Don't get caught in all that negativity. Come on, do your inner work.
Yep. 100%.
So
Yeah.
how
It's
would
like,
people get a hold of you, Julie? What would they do to find you?
yes. And by the way, I got the whole image of the arrow, the centaur with the arrow, right? Like, come this way with the arrow. It's why I have a necklace with an arrow. The best way to find me, website, juliereisler.com. I am on social media, Instagram, Facebook, wherever, TikTok. I also do have a lot of free meditations and courses on Insight Timer, which is a beautiful mindfulness app. If you just look up my
Insight
name.
Timer. That's a good thing to know.
Yes. And YouTube. I have, podcasts, and we'll be having you soon, which is awesome. But yeah, website, you can always connect with me there. I'm obsessed with this work. It's funny, as we're talking, I'm like, oh, this is one of the reasons why, because
You
it
get a
changes.
10th house. Your chart is so ambitious.
Well, that makes me feel better.
When you're born at noon, the brightness of the day, you cannot not go back to sleep. You're in the middle of the brightness of the day.
I just talked to my husband now, who's like, wow, you are always on. Like, you've got ideas. I'm like, who knows? I could light up a city sometimes, I feel like, with this energy.
Well, I can relate. I'm right in the same city next to you. I'm sitting right next to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what a pleasure. I'm looking forward to being on your podcast.
Yes, me too.
And thank you for this so much. And thank you for whoever connected us, the divine organization. Where do you live?
So think about this with the energy. I live right outside of Washington, D.C., in the Maryland area. Yeah, for now.
And you're holding down the energy. Thank you so much. That place needs that place needs light and love. And what a perfect person to be doing that. You are so bright. I'm so thankful. I'm getting my sunglasses out. There they are.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. We want to keep this conversation going with you, so please subscribe to our podcast and leave a rating and review to make sure you never miss an episode. Remember, climate activist by day, human by night. Send Debra a DM on Instagram at Debra Silverman Astrology and visit DebraSilvermanAstrology.com. And we're going to leave you like we leave every single episode. Make it your mission to change the world.